So thanks for being here, and thanks for getting interested about, hello, welcome, to talk about side projects. We'll talk about different aspects of side projects, on how to build one, how to get excited about one, and how to keep it for your sanity. I think that's also an important part of the thing. I'm also wondering, how many of you are looking for a job now? Are you looking for a job? Okay. So that could also be helpful for people that are trying to build their portfolio. I think that's why they had like a double title. Okay, so this is me. I'm Nicholas. This is my username on many of the social network media and all the things that existed before Facebook. Feel free to look for me online and reach me out if you have any questions afterwards. I love to do that all the time. And I'm currently working at a company called Typeform. Have you heard about Typeform? Yes, maybe. We are based in Barcelona. We were founded in Barcelona about 5 years ago, and we have a small office in San Francisco, and I'm part of the small office. So you could say that you've met 1/6 of the San Francisco office, because it's pretty small. Otherwise, we're about 200 people in Barcelona, a team of about 60 engineers. And so if you're looking for a job, and you're willing to move to Barcelona, which is awesome, like currently it's very sunny, then you should look for Typeform. What do we do? If you haven't heard or used our product, we try to make forms a bit more conversational, a bit more exciting, and less about just like, give me your first name and last name. More like, hey, what's your first name? Hey, Nico, what's your last name? So it's a bit more fun and engaging for people to answer. Like this, you have more relevant answers and more interesting answers. This is just like a showcase of how it looks like. And in the team, my job is to be what we call a developer advocate, or what the millennials currently in 2019 will call developer advocado. If you haven't heard about this term, really my goal is to make developers successful and make them champions. If you're not from France, don't be offended, but this one is owned by us currently, and there's a good chance we're gonna get the second one in a month. Yeah, the idea is like my target, my audience are developers, and I will really do anything to make them successful. I will take care of the documentation of their R API. I will take care of the SDKs, the examples, the support ticket they may have to get those people, to give them the best experience. So if you're interested by this type of career and you want to talk about developer advocacy, please come talk to me. The good thing about this, and I think this is why I'm relevant to talk about side projects, is my life is made of small side projects. I get to build many small things all the time, and for work or for fun. So, doesn't really matter how you call this. Some people call that side project, and this is an example of a sidecar. I don't know how to drive this thing. Or they call that pet project, and I usually don't like pets, unless it's a goldfish. So you get to decide how you call this. But really the goal for you is to make you shine, make you more visible when you're building those things. So you get a bit more excited, and people are getting excited when they see your profile. When you're looking for a job, or when you just go online and present yourself. This is, I think, one of the main goals for side projects. But it's okay, and this is my favorite animal on earth, it's also okay to chill. Don't feel pressured, and this is why I mentioned the sanity. Don't feel pressured to build side projects. It's okay to be a developer that just go to work and do their work at work. There is no need to feel pressured to do things on the weekend or at night. This is not sustainable. And feel free to repeat that to yourself and to anybody that tells you you have to do more. You get paid to do your stuff during your hours, and you shouldn't be feeling any pressure to do anything on the outside. All right, so get some chill and eat some bamboo. So let's try to find some direction on how to get started on your side projects, and why you will do this. So we said the first thing on why you will be interested to do side projects or build a portfolio and get those side projects into your portfolio is to make you look good. If you are adding side project to your portfolio, you're one step ahead of other candidates in the pipeline. You're a step ahead of other developers. You're turning yourself in a unicorn, a ninja, a rock star, whatever term they use currently to hire awesome people. But you are showcasing a bit more than anybody else. So this is an advantage. Good thing about side project as well, and especially for people that are just getting started in their career, it's also an opportunity to learn. So you did a bootcamp, you learn Ruby, but you're also curious to learn about Python. And if you try to get a job with a Python requirement, they're probably not going to give it to you because they expect you to be proficient really quickly. But you have the opportunity as a side project to say, oh, you know what? I'm going to spend a weekend and I'm going to try to learn Python. So Python might be very vast, but you can like narrow it down to maybe I want to learn React and I want to feel what React is. So whenever you get to the job interview, whenever it gets to maybe in your current team, when someone comes like, oh, we want to build a new project, I'll be like, oh, I know a bit of React, I know a bit of Python, maybe we can get the two together and I won't feel uncomfortable. I'm like ready to get started. So take this opportunity of building side projects for a learning experience. You get to decide the scope of it. Is it a whole language? Is it a framework? Is it an API? Is it just a small open source project? Is it an architecture that you want to try? You get to decide what you want to learn, but take this as again, as a learning opportunity. Consider side projects as something that could turn big. It's not because you do it on the weekend, it's not because you do it like part-time, it's not because you just dedicate a couple of hours that it can't be the next big thing. A lot of the startups, a lot of the companies started as a small thing. People were working a normal job and then on the side they were doing something else. So that could be also exciting. It could be fun when you work on something and then eventually it can turn into a bigger thing. For this, I would like to give you two examples. The first one, and I pick French companies so you can relate because they were based here. Actually, those guys are remote, I think, but they're French. Pixelme, I don't know if you're familiar with them. They build a tool that helps marketers to track better sales conversion and engagement on the platform. They started a side project. They launched on Product Hunt, got a couple of hundreds of signups, got people ready to do the beta, got people to get into paying for this service. And eventually, just a year later, they raised a little fund, seed fund, to get the business growing. It was just something they did on the side to try if it was worth it. Now it's a real company. Another example, it's an example from a buddy of mine that you may have met in the Paris scene because he's based in Paris, is Adrien Joly. Currently, I think, working at Algolia. And he did a small project using the Trello API to build a Trello extension. As you can see, it's something to click boxes on Trello. Very simple, but a lot of people needed that feature. And if you look at the numbers, there are about 30,000 people currently using the thing. Again, something that you start on the side as a side thing, but suddenly you have 30,000 people using your product. So something you can be proud of, something you can look like, yes, I'm achieving something. And I even think that he's charging a bit for some advanced features, so there's a bit of money coming in. The other cool thing about side projects, it really depends if you're currently working somewhere or if you're looking for a job, but I feel that once you get to experience working on projects that are not your current work, you may appreciate more what you currently have and what's the situation at your current job or at the school you are. Because we always say the grass is greener on the other side, but when you got to try what's out there, eventually you still like what you had and not everything is better. So come back to your reality after making a project and say like, oh, you know what, I tried this technology and in the end it's not relevant for us. I tried this mindset and in the end, I still like the way we work, this type of thing. So it's a good opportunity to settle and bring some positivity as well. But you don't have to get yourself insane and crazy about side projects. Don't overcome the complexity of it. There are many ways to get started in a simple way. Few things to make sure that you don't turn yourself into an insane person. Think about the scope, right? It's really common to say that if you reach for the moon, eventually, if you reach for the star? No, if you reach for the moon, eventually you will end up in the stars, which is still a good outcome. When it comes into side project, as it's something on the side, try to scope it. You scope it in different ways. You scope it in the time you want to spend on it. I just want to dedicate a weekend. I just want to dedicate a few hours a day. I just want to dedicate just like this afternoon. So you don't overcome with like features you want to add into this thing. So you start small and you know yourself, you know what's going to be possible to do. Scope it in terms of time and scope it in terms of feature. So like this as well, when you get to the end of it, you will be able to assess what you've done, and eventually, as you didn't come up with a lot of features, you didn't ask for too much time, you have a better chance to success. It doesn't have to be something about coding. It's not because we're developers that we should go straight ahead to our laptop and start coding. There are many ways to get started on a side project without coding. Here's an example of many of the platforms that let you do stuff without coding. And there is an awesome article, an awesome blog by Ryan Hoover, the founder of Product Hunt, about the no-coding movement. This is definitely what's coming next this year, and probably the next as well, is like a lot of platforms that let you build complex things without any piece of code. And so to name a few, you may have heard about Zapier. Zapier is a way to connect services together through simple drag and drop and clicks. So you will say like, and if we take an example with Typeform, will be like something like, if someone submits something on Typeform, then send them an email, or then create something in my database, send them a text. Like you can connect a lot of things together, and you still haven't coded anything. They have other examples to build websites in a really drag and drop way. Airtable is a way like to store like a database, so you can have a database that doesn't look like a database but still acts like a database because your data it's stored, has lines, has columns, has tables, but then this gets connected to a no-coding solution like Zapier. And there's one missing here called Glide. They let you do mobile apps using a Google spreadsheet. So using a Google spreadsheet, you can make a native mobile app or something that looks native. So this way you can try your ideas without spending too much time coding. Try to set up yourself for success. So set up yourself for success, I think we mentioned that a bit already. If you're able to scope the good things, I mean, setting yourself for success is also, I think you have seats in the back if you want to sit. That's going to be more comfortable for you. No worries. Setting up yourself for success is also setting up yourself for your own feeling, the feeling you're going to get at the end of this. Again, if you want to build a recipe app and you're like, oh, it would be awesome if I can share that, and the recipe could be shared over AirDrop, and it would be awesome if I can add pictures and then VR, and then like you start like making a list of crazy features on the app. This list could be going on forever. So just select the ones that you really want to achieve, so at the end you're happy with yourself and you can make progress, because there's nothing worse than like, oh, in the end I fail and I'm not happy, and probably I won't do that experience again. So make sure that you can achieve those goals so it's not a bad experience for you. Don't complexify also the things you want to do. So if we're talking about code and making a web app, you want to launch a web server eventually, right? If you get started, but it's like, okay, we're going to do AWS with EC2 and then DNS mask and like, then what can I add? IP routes. Like you can add a lot of complexity, like if you were in a real world at work, but you don't need this for a side project. Take as many shortcuts as you can. And those are examples of shortcuts you can take. So if you've done the bootcamp here, I think they use Heroku. Yes. So you have an alternative for the French market called Clever Cloud. Something like this: make the code, git push, boom, it gets deployed. You don't have to take care of the scaling. You don't have to take care of all the things yet. Netlify hosting for static websites. You don't need to create a crazy website. A static website is just fine. That will be enough to test the idea. Glitch, if you don't know about Glitch, this is my favorite tool right now. It's an online editor, an online IDE. I will show you later how it looks like. for Node.js environment, and they're starting to support more languages soon, where you do the modification on the code, it deploys automatically. So whenever they give you a space to work, they also give you a URL and a server. So you don't have to take care about like deploying it anywhere. It's already there. When you talk about databases, example with MLab for Mongo or Fauna for like a serverless database, and then think about serverless as well. So I don't know if you're getting familiar with serverless, but the whole idea that you can break your application into functions, and those functions could be really small and will do a very complex thing, and then they will scale up on their own. So look at solution like Zate as well. Cool. And on this, I will also add a note about being frugal. This is, I think, AWS mantra and Amazon mantra. They try to be cheap on everything. Sometimes it shouldn't be the case, but when you work on a side project, be frugal. It's okay to not pay for software when it's just something on the side. I just realized that I have a friend who launched a side project 2 months ago, 3 months ago. He's paying $150 a month for this thing. And it has no traffic, no one is using it, like really few people are using it. And I'm like, dude, if you spend that much, then you're gonna see this as a burden, drag you back. It was like, I'm spending that much money on it, and it doesn't make progress, and I will never, blah, blah, blah. No, try to do the cheap stuff. Some of the things that I show you here, most of them have a free plan. Use that as your advantage. So don't spend too much money on this. And consider yourself as a startup. Many of those things have a startup program. Many of those things have a like student program. Take advantage. Don't spend too much money on it, because this will be dragging you down afterwards. The only thing you can spend money on is domain names. You might have the same disease that I have. I buy random domain names and then I forget what they were for. And this is fine. This is cool. Or not. But yeah, that was the idea. Finally, on this, some projects come to an end, and it's fine, and you should make peace with yourself about this. It's not an issue if at one point you decide that this project is over, and you have to turn the server down, and you have to delete the code if you want to delete the code. It's totally fine. You should be free for this. You should be free with yourself about this idea. There's nothing wrong about this, because this side project was not meant to be a bigger thing, but it gives you learning, it gives you experience, you get to discover many things. And then it's not because the server is not up and running that it's done. It can still live as an open source project somewhere, it can still live on your resume, on your portfolio. All right, so now that we talk about why you should build a side project, let's talk about like how you can get started. The good thing is, if you're interested to build side projects, you're not alone. There are many other people in the world that are doing the same thing at a different level, as a fun thing or as a more serious job. Those are like 3 communities you can reach out whenever you get on your side project, and if you need people to cheer up for you. The first one is called Work in Progress. And they're very supportive. You go there, I'm like, hey, I'm Nico, I'm doing something about whatever, this awesome recipe app. Could you give me feedback on my mockups? Could you give me feedback about my landing page? And people will come and it's like, this is working, this is not working. I think you should say that instead of that. It could be feedback about anything, about the design, about the grammar, about the words you use, the logo, all the kind of stuff. And they're very supportive because it's a positive community. Another community that's similar around this type of things is also Indie Hackers. And I think they have local chapters around the world. So I'm pretty sure there is one in Paris. So you can meet those people in person and you can get a group of people like, yes, we're all in this thing, we're all making progress, and we meet once a month and I will show you how much progress I make on my project. And then if you're on Reddit, the side project one is also very interesting. So try to be involved in those communities, contribute, help others, and others will help you. It's also very rewarding to see how you can help others and what other people are building, and be able to give feedback as well. If you need excuses to get started on a side project, there are plenty of excuses. If you can't find ideas, there are plenty of ways to get started on ideas as well. I listed 3 things, but there are really more than this. If you're on Product Hunt, how many of you are watching Product Hunt? Yeah, few? If you're not, I encourage you to go check it out. It's a good idea of what's out there, what people are building, but especially now because they are really into the makers, the people who are like making things, making projects, and they're really into like building this community of makers. So that could have been another link. But for now, like an example now, they have regular festivals of makers on. They give you a theme and they will tell you, oh, hack my stuff, try to find a project. And they give you a time. They will say, like, you have a week to do it. And so currently they're running something about their API. They have an API and they're curious to see how people are building, what people are building with their API. Previously, they had some stuff for like, use Coda, which is also a no-code tool. Use Coda and then show us how you're gonna build something for healthcare. Show us how you're gonna do something for education. And so that can help you kickstart ideas and get you started. Another thing is DevPost. So DevPost is both online and offline community. It's a list of hackathons and coding competitions that are happening all over the world. And sometimes they have challenges organized by companies. So you can imagine that like Amazon is launching a new Alexa device in the French market. Actually, that's what they did. They organize a competition out there and say like, okay, we're gonna give $5,000 to the best prize for the best hack. You just get excited by this idea and you're like, okay, let's do something. I have a deadline. I know how much time I'm going to spend on this. And then we'll see if I win, but also we'll see what I learn. And they have regular things around, online, so you can go check it out regularly. And I wanted to mention also Startup Weekend. So I don't know if you're familiar with Startup Weekend. It's probably the best weekend you can spend doing anything else but work. But like this is like a rejuvenation. I don't know how you say this, but like you feel empowered again. Really, we've done that a few times with Edward in San Francisco. You come with an idea, and at the end of this weekend, eventually you build this idea, but you have thought about everything else about the idea: the market, the pricing, the target audience, the MVP that you get to build eventually. But at the end of this, you're like, wow, I did something. So get this as an opportunity to try some ideas, try some projects, and eventually build something. Once you're doing this side project, I mentioned you have to scope it, but don't scope it too low. Have a bit of ambition. Don't feel pressured or don't feel the weight of what we can call the imposter syndrome. Trust in yourself, right? So I don't want to see people like, oh, I'm going to make a nice recipe app, but I'm going to make it too slow because I don't know if I can achieve it. So put some ambition goals that you can achieve as well. So like, don't put too much, but be ambitious. Because by not being ambitious, you might lose an opportunity to do something interesting. So try to go big as well. While you're working on this side project, try to document it. By documenting it, it's usually writing a blog post about this, telling the story. In most cases, in a lot of cases, sometimes the story is more famous or has more hype than the actual product. Putting yourself out there, telling the story of it, shows also a bit of humility and shows a bit as well of empathy with what happened. So like getting a bit of out of your comfort zone, people will see what you've done, what you have achieved, the successes, but also the failures. And people usually value this in a portfolio, in a job application. In the same time, that gives you writing experience, and writing experience is always a good thing to have. So document it. Tell the story about this. As we're developers, think about open sourcing this project. Once it's done, why do you care if it's open source? If it's really your main thing, then eventually don't open source it. But if it's not, if it's just something you did on the side to learn React, you should be free to open source it, put it on GitHub, show it to the world. It will give you two things. It will give you visibility on your coding skills to potential recruiters or potential coworkers. But also, you're also participating in a bigger thing. So if you're making a small project, that could be like an NPM package, that could be a Ruby gem, and you just did that to try how you do packages or how you do Ruby gem, eventually somebody else will be interested by this, and you're contributing to the global knowledge brought by the open source community. So feel free to share that. Okay, so now maybe time to share my experience working on a small little side project that I've done. This is not my pet. I don't have cats or anything else. Let me give you a bit of context. So this is a project I've made when I was interviewing at a company, and they give me a take-home project. So you have different flavors of interviews when you're interviewing for a dev position. And this one, as it was specifically a developer advocate position, they were like, we'll be curious to know what you're going to do with our API. What you're going to build with it. And instead of just cracking something very quickly and doing what everybody has done with their API, so the API was Algolia. I could have mentioned this, which is a search API. If you don't know Algolia, they power the search on Twitch, on Periscope, on Hacker News, on Product Hunt, and many other places, and some e-commerce in France as well. But basically, like, how would you implement search on your project? A lot of the projects and examples they have is something like, oh, let me search into my movie database, in my DVDs, my books. Pretty simple, but nothing exciting. And so the idea behind this project for me was trying to build something that will be valuable and that will bring value, something I could be proud of. I don't want to just build an example of how to use the API, but like more like build a real project. And at that time, it was in 2017, so it's a bit a long time ago, but it's so far my most successful project, so that's why I'm telling you about it. It was the time for the eclipse, a big solar eclipse in the US. It was the first time in many years that the eclipse was like 100% from the west to the east coast. So almost every American could have gone to see it because they were like a few hours away from the 100% zone. So big event in the country. There were a lot of communication about how to watch the eclipse. Apparently some people didn't follow the instructions, and that can explain some of the resolutions we're having now. But that's too political. So what happened with this project? This is something I can't pronounce because I don't know how you pronounce emojis, but I will show you how it looks like. This. So my project was to find events around you for this special day, this special eclipse day. Because you might not be on the 100% zone, but the local astronomy group, the local stargazer group, we're gathering together to look at it and be nerdy about eclipse. And that's always fun, right? I was myself in San Francisco, and I was wondering what was going on. The NASA had a website with a big Google map full of pointers to see like all the places you could go, but it was hard to read. So instead, what I did, it's a small tool where I'll just put my location, and it will tell me what's going on around San Francisco, the different events, where they will be, the location, what you will find over there, this type of things, and also give me the conditions, like what could I look, what will I be able to look for the eclipse. So in San Francisco, we're not in the 100%, we're just 85, I think, or close to that. This is a project that I've made. Okay. I posted it on Product Hunt. The good thing about this, it got a bit of upvotes, 156, pretty nice. Was like in the top 5 that day, I think. It got a bit of visibility because it was timely posted. If I post something right now about the eclipse, no one will care because it's a past event. Or the next eclipse in the US, I think it's the same type of condition will be in 100 years. But if you're like, right now, what would be interesting? Post something about the Women's World Cup, the Football World Cup, the Soccer World Cup. Something about the Tour de France, something about the summer, something, what's going on right now in the world that people will be interested to know and will be able to do stuff around this. So there's like different periods, different events where you can target your project and like ride the wave of hype. So once we launch it, this is the numbers we get on Product Hunt. I also did a blog post where I explained the project, how I connected the different APIs together, how I turned this NASA website into Algolia index that was easy to search, how I connected, so it's a bit technical, but people like technical content, so feel free to add technical content. How I tried to draw the condition of the eclipse, trying to do like some math, but I didn't do math in a long time, so I forgot about all the sinuses and cosinuses and how you're supposed to do this. So I explained that, got some views, got some nice numbers there. Somehow this project got published on Fastco, which is like Fast Company website, a blog post. Got some views from there because they're like, okay, what's coming? The eclipse is in 2 weeks. What are the apps you should look at for the eclipse? 1,600 views. And then the same day, it got posted on Lifehacker, which is another website about tech news. And then there, it blew up. I found out about this because Algolia sent me an email. I was like, oh, you're above your free plan. I was like, fuck, am I? How come? I didn't do anything. I just did the product hunt yesterday. I don't know. And then and that happened. But they were nice enough to extend the free plan. So that's also a lesson for you. Like, you're on a free plan, but no one is going to charge you right away. Like, there are really few companies that will block you and charge you at the moment you go above. And then finally, I got mentioned on the official website of the City Hall for San Luis Obispo, which is a city in California. So they were like mentioning to their citizens, oh, if you're interested by the eclipse, look up there. So pretty interesting stuff. That's like numbers from the API calls. And as you see, when it was posted, this is like in the middle, 35,000 API calls in 1 day, which is a lot for the thing. And yeah, so, and then I learned other stuff. It was my first time learning Vue.js. That was my scope. I was like, I want to do something with Vue. I never done that. I got to do a bit of astronomy stuff that I didn't understand. I posted a question on Stack Overflow for astronomy. So that was also very interesting in terms of learning. I got to play with a government API, and that's why the project that I'm showing you is failing right now, because this API is done. It was only there for that time from the Naval Observatory of the US. So we got to talk about this. I got to talk with the time and date company because I basically stole the image from them to visualize the eclipse. I was like, oh, it could be nice to have this on your API, or you have an API but you're missing some data. So we have a nice API conversation about this. And what else did I learn? I did a bunch of stuff. So in the end, for me, it's a winning experience. So the lesson for you on this is like, don't be afraid of what could happen. Build your thing, launch it, and eventually some people will pick it and will be excited. And in this case, it was just an eclipse, so there was nothing else to do. Like, once the eclipse is done, the project is over. But if it was something else, then eventually you continue riding the wave, and you'll see how far you want to go with it. I think that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. Happy to show you some other small projects that I have. Thank you.